Okay, picture this. You're sitting completely alone in a room, just you and a coin. You know that if you flip it and it lands on heads, you walk away with 30 bucks. Tails? You get absolutely nothing. No cameras, no one watching, the coast is clear. Do you play it straight, or do you maybe tip the scales a little bit? It sounds like a simple choice, right? But your answer actually points to a profoundly complex glitch in human nature. Today, we're going to put you right in the shoes of people who faced these exact kinds of temptations. Welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly pumped you're hanging out with us today because we're tackling something literally all of us do, but almost none of us actually understand. We are diving deep into some fascinating academic research on the psychology of deception to figure out why exactly we lie. Here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, the crisis of deception. Then, the honest cheater. Third, partners in crime. Fourth, the counterfeit self. Fifth, the speed of honesty. And finally, fostering a truthful society. Let's get right into it. Starting with Section 1, the crisis of deception as a global issue. To really get why this matters, we have to look at the actual stakes here, and they are massive. A major literature review from the International Journal of Human and Contemplation found something wild. Lying isn't just, a bad habit or a minor character flaw. It's actually classified as a critical global crisis. Seriously. The research stresses that dishonesty takes a huge toll on our collective mental health, and it completely warps global decision-making. So when we lie, we're not just bending a few rules. We're actively degrading the very trust that holds our medical, economic, and social systems together. Which leads us to Section 2, the honest cheater and our internal gymnastics. So how do we pull a fast one on people but still manage to look ourselves in the mirror every morning? Well, researchers pinpointed this psychological anchor called moral hypocrisy. It's basically that incredibly common urge we all have to look like good, ethical people, both to ourselves and to everyone else, while completely dodging the actual effort or cost of being moral. We essentially use things like luck or some twisted logic as a shield. It lets us justify our selfish choices so we don't have to feel like the bad guy. And that brings us to this frankly brilliant experiment. Researchers basically told participants, hey, you can either do this super fun task where you could win 30 bucks or a completely boring task for $0. They were told to go flip a coin in total privacy to decide who gets the good task, them or an anonymous partner. Get this. Astonishingly, 90% of the participants claimed the coin landed in their favor. 90%! Now, obviously, a coin flip is 50-50. A 90% success rate is mathematically impossible unless every single one of them brought a magic two-headed coin. What it actually proves is that people were hiding their cheating behind the illusion of a lucky flip. They lied, but because they let the coin do the dirty work, they still rated their own behavior as highly ethical. Mental gymnastics at its finest. We see the exact same thing in another famous study involving dice. Participants rolled a die in secret and got paid based on the number they rolled. A 1 paid $1, a 5 paid $5, but a 6 meant $0. Now, if people were purely completely greedy, everyone would just lie and say they rolled a 5, right? But they didn't. The beta showed this massive, completely unnatural spike of people claiming they rolled 4s. Why? Because of those internal gymnastics we just talked about. They took the extra cash by cheating, sure, but they intentionally left a little bit of money on the table just to protect their moral self-image. They cheated just enough to win, but not quite enough to feel like a total fraud. Let's move on to Section 3, partners in crime, and the contagion of groups. Okay, so that's just us on our own. But what happens when you toss an accomplice into the mix? Researchers created a collaborative dice game to find out. 2 players sit in totally separate rooms and roll their own dice, one after the other. But here's the catch. They only get a cash payout if they both report the exact same number. Statistically speaking, the odds of an honest match happening naturally are 1 in 6, or roughly 16.7%. Remember that number, because that is our baseline for the truth. Now, check out the actual behavior on this graph. You see that massive cluster way up in the top right corner? Those are pairs of 4s, 5s, and 6s. What this absolutely proves is that player 1 would lie and report a high number. And the moment player 2 realized their partner was inflating the score, player 2 just matched the lie to guarantee the payout. It turns out the second we realize our group is in on the scam, our cheating just completely skyrockets. Seriously, just look at this quote from the researchers. When they made the players repeat the game 20 times, about half of the candidates claimed they rolled a perfect matching pair every single time. Every single time. Do you know the odds of that? It's a 1/6 to the power of 20 probability. That's so mathematically absurd it is practically zero. Come on, we all know absolutely nobody is that consistently lucky. But it highlights something pretty dark. The stronger the trust and the tighter the bond within a group, the higher the rate of absolute, unabashed deceit. Corruption, it turns out, is highly contagious. Moving on to Section 4, the counterfeit self and environmental triggers. So we've looked at peers. Now let's look at the environment, specifically how the clothes and accessories we wear literally shift our ethics. Researchers wanted to see if sporting counterfeit luxury gear actually changes our behavior. They took two groups of people and gave everyone in both groups a pair of authentic, super expensive Chloe designer sunglasses. But they pulled a fast one. They secretly and falsely told the second group that their glasses were just cheap knockoffs. While wearing these glasses, the participants took this seemingly boring dot-counting test on a computer. Basically, they got paid $1 every time they clicked the right button and only 10 cents for clicking the left, completely regardless of what the screen was actually showing. So there was a very clear financial incentive to lie and just click right. The data here is wild. The group who merely thought they were wearing fake glasses ended up cheating significantly more. The researchers concluded that this counterfeit self actually infects our morality. Basically, if we feel fake on the outside, it lowers our internal ethical barriers, making us way more likely to act deceptively. Which brings us to Section 5, the speed of honesty and our biological instincts. Are humans naturally honest or are we naturally deceptive? To find out, researchers had people roll a die in a cup and report the number for cash, just like before. But this time, they split them up. One group had unlimited time to report their score, while the other group was rushed and forced to report their number in under 8 seconds. You can see the results right here. There was a massive 20% spike in cheating when participants were put under that intense 8-second time pressure. The takeaway here is absolutely crucial. Our default knee-jerk human instinct, it actually leans pretty heavily towards self-interest and deception. When we're rushed or caught off guard, our brains just want to grab the immediate reward. We actually need time to process morality. We need those few extra seconds to think about our core values, our self-image, and the actual consequences of telling a lie. So quite literally, honesty requires time. And finally, Section 6, fostering a truthful society. And what we can actually take away from all this. Taking all this incredible data together, how can we actively build an environment that actually promotes the truth? Well, there are a few practical steps. First, remove extreme time pressure. If you give people a moment to reflect, they naturally lean toward doing the right thing. Second, trigger self-awareness. Get this. In one version of that coin flip test, researchers simply put a large mirror in the room, and the cheating rate plummeted from that impossible 90% down to a near-perfect statistical 50%. When we literally have to look at ourselves, we act better. Third, promote an authentic self. Ditch the counterfeit mindset. And lastly, be aware that groups can quickly become echo chambers for bad behavior. If you see collaborative corruption starting to form, you've got to break up those structures before the lies multiply. So, as we wrap up, I want you to look at your own workplace, your relationships, and your daily routines. Human nature is always going to hunt for that loophole, right? The coin flip, the fake glasses, the rush decision, any way to get the reward without feeling the guilt. The real question is, are you building an environment that demands true honesty? Or are you accidentally building one that quietly encourages the honest cheater? Something to chew on the next time you're faced with a tough choice. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. I really hope it completely changes the way you view the truth.